Craftrik Media TV. Kindly like, share, and drop your comments on our videos. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Zambia has secured a $1.3 billion IMF bailout package, enabling the African nation to advance talks with creditors on exiting a default that will test how Beijing handles the soaring of its loans to developing nations. The three-year bailout will help re-establish sustainability through fiscal adjustments and debt restructuring through a homegrown economic reform plan formulated by President Hakainde Hichilema's government. The deal is a landmark for how the IMF will respond to a wave of debt distress in countries that have borrowed heavily from China. The bailout was unlocked after Beijing agreed in principle in July to restructure loans under a G20 framework to coordinate debt relief. The IMF also announced an agreement with Sri Lanka and a draft of $2.9 billion bailout that will head to the fund's board for sign-off and approved a $1.1 billion disbursement to Pakistan. Both South Asian countries took significant loans from Beijing in recent years before becoming mired in debt crisis. In 2020, Zambia became the first African borrower to default since the start of the pandemic when it stopped making payments on $17 billion of external debt under Edgar Lungu, who lost the presidency to Hichilema in an election the following year. Before the default, China became Zambia's biggest creditor with $6 billion in loans to build airports, roads, and other infrastructure, many of which became white elephants as the economy slowed and corruption mounted. Zambia will now have to negotiate the exact terms to relieve with bilateral lenders and secure a similar deal with private creditors such as holders of $3 billion in US dollar denomination Eurobonds. Both tasks will be difficult as the Chinese debt is split between several creditors and Beijing has historically been reluctant to take outright losses. Some bondholders have complained that they have been left in the dark over calculations about how much relief is needed. Zambia's defaulted Eurobonds have traded at about two-thirds of their face value, an indication on investors' expectations of losses. The IMF bailout is anchored by a plan of Hichilema's government to cut the fiscal deficit to less than 7% of gross domestic product this year, from double digits in 2021, and to revive growth. The debt crisis pushed what was one of Africa's fastest growing economies into a long torpor. But optimism about debt relief and strong copper prices have aided a rebound this year. The Zambian kwacha has been the world's second best performing currency against the US dollar this year after being the worst performing last year. Inflation has fallen from double digits in recent months, bucking a trend in a region that has been hit hard by the global surge in flood and fuel prices unleashed by Russia's war in Ukraine. The IMF has argued that the Zambia program will protect social spending, which is projected to rise from 0.7% of the GDP in 2020 to 1.6% in 2025. But Hichilema's government would be expected to eliminate a fuel subsidy and cut costs in farm subsidies and avoid a repeat of bad investments fueled by debt. Zambia's finance ministry has already cut back sharply on infrastructure projects in the pipeline, canceling $2 billion in yet to be disbursed loans, largely from Chinese banks. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to Graphic Media TV for more informative content. Turn on the notification bell so as to be notified each time we upload fresh content.